So that's not gonna get demonetized because of my singing. Best intro. So I'll say, hello, Village Gamers. We are not live today because of little hardware problematic. So let's pray for Adam to get a new computer and rip to your old ones. Very sorry about it. And today, this is again the second part of December show. We are not doing things as usual in December, as Krian told you last week. And if you were with us for last week's show, you would already know that. And this week, we are talking about the Game Awards, of course, which were picked on December 7th. So I'm already 5 days late. It's all news. You already know all the winners. But I wanted to review some categories which I thought were interesting enough to talk about. There will be some debate. Some of those categories are completely obvious and we'll steamroll over them. And to start off, I want to talk about, very quickly, of course, the Game of the Year award. So why very quickly? Because if you watch our show last week, not last year, and hi to Adam's cat. She's so cute. We talked about it last week. Very quickly for housekeeping, Game of the Year award nominees were Alan Wake, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. And the winners is Baldur's Gate 3 at the surprise of absolutely no one. We explained last week why we thought it would win. It was the obvious choice, to be honest. Why, if you recall, and I'm sure you guys, we did our own specification as to what a game award or game of the year should be. And in this specification, there was should not be an exclusive game, which automatically remove Super Mario and Zelda, should not be a remake, which automatically take out Resident Evil 4. Spider-Man is also, I believe, an exclusive of PlayStation, right?
Yep.
So left was Baldur's Gate 3, Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 came out way too late compared to Baldur's Gate. And I believe Baldur's Gate 2 is a better game, even though Alan Wake is a great game, and we'll talk about it later on another category. So, of course, Baldur's Gate 3 is the winner. Guys, do you have any reaction to this complete surprise? Of course, I'm gonna tone down the sarcasm, right? But it was the obvious winner. So, what do you think, guys? I know that Ukraine wanted to see Super Mario Wonder as the game of the year. Are you a bit disappointed on this one?
I talked about this last week. Like the Game of the Year awards don't, I believe, not even I believe, like talking to other people our age over the last, since we've been doing this podcast, right? Most people in their, I mean, you guys or Antoine and I are the same age. Adam's a little bit younger, right? But at this age group, right? A little bit younger, yes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't impact the decisions. I didn't watch. I only vote for the Steam Game of the Year awards because, again, I get a free card that I can sell for $2 or $3,000. It's just money for me. I don't care about anything else, right? Middle-aged gamers buy what they want to buy, right? They spend money where they want to spend it, and they spend less money, but they pay premium prices, not usually waiting for sales. Oh no, I didn't watch, and I saw, okay, Baldur's Gate 1. That's surprising to me because, like, growing up in South Africa with a old like British school system and stuff, and I don't know if France is the same way, but I went to an all boys school, and of course, in an all boys school, you got to be rough and tough and mean, and you couldn't play Dungeons and Dragons and read fantasy books and like Magic the Gathering. That's impossible. So to me, this kind of game winning a Game of the Year is just it doesn't make sense because it is too niche. I thought Super Mario Bros. Wonder was a good choice because it is the most accessible game. It is a game that anybody can pick up and play, and there's no complicated rule sets. There's no dice rolls. It's just, here's A, here's B, move. Okay, that's it. Done. Complete. Easy, accessible, beautiful, affordable in terms of console hardware. I mean, such 112 million Switch users in the world. That was my take anyway.
Got it. What about you, Adam?
Oh, I'm not shocked at all. I was expecting it to win. I was probably going to be a little bit disappointed if it didn't. Yeah, but the opposite of what Korean was saying there, like for me, it's not necessarily about accessibility, but about the overall experience, the hype behind it, the kind of cultural impact that the game has as a whole. So something like if we look back and say like The Witcher 3, people still talk about The Witcher 3. You look at Skyrim, people still talk about Skyrim. These are things, and not only that, but these are games that inspire future games, and everyone wants to make the next Skyrim. Everyone wants to make the next Witcher 3. And even if that game's not accessible to everyone, pretty much everyone's heard of it. They have an idea of what it is. And I think Baldur's Gate was very much that. Whereas I feel like maybe something like Super Mario Wonder or maybe I haven't played Alan Wake 2, but I feel like these are games that people will play. And then in 5 years, you might mention it and people are like, oh yeah, I remember playing that game. But people aren't thinking, oh, I need to make the next. I need to make the next Mario Wonder, because the next Mario Wonder is just the next 2D Mario in a way. Whereas, say, Breath of the Wild with Legend of Zelda, that was a huge thing. It was a huge cultural thing, and people are like, everyone wants to make the next Breath of the Wild, which is why Tears of the Kingdom was such a big deal. So I think in that sense, Baldur's Gate really nailed it. Where it's even if turn-based isn't your thing, even if these kind of RPGs aren't your thing, people are aware of the choices that it gave people when they played, and the freedom that it gave you to play the way you wanted to an extent. Not if you wanted to play an action game, but if you want to be more sneaky or you want to be that, it really allows you a lot of freedom. And I think that kind of impact and that kind of reputation is what got it that Game of the Year award, where, that's people are going to want to make the next Baldur's Gate 3. That's going to be what people are going to aim for. So I think it earned it.
You surprised me because really I thought we would steamroll over the game or the Game of the Year award, and there would be really much matter for the a long video or something on YouTube, and you can pick that segment's gonna be great. I'm thinking it's interesting because we really didn't talk about this impact for future generation, or at least future generation of game last week. And you're right, you're completely right. We're gonna talk about the next Baldur's Gate 3 for a while, and I'm sure that the next Baldur's Gate is going to be a big thing because of this. So, no, you're right. So, thank you very much. And next up, I wanted to talk about another category. Again, that's not one of the main one. I just want to go really quickly about it, but I wanted to still mention it simply because we talked about it last week, and this is the most anticipated games. In the nomination or nominees, sorry, you had the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hades 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaws, and Tekken 8. And of course, the winners is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Although, and I'm not surprised about it because everybody's waiting for it, because the first iteration of the first episode, let's say, was really good and everybody's waiting for it. But there was some tough competition on it. Like the Yakuza series is a bit niche, maybe. Maybe not everybody know Yakuza, but the Yakuza is a very well-loved IP, and it's always very fun games. You add Tekken 8, it's too niche. Two fighting games, not everybody's into. First of all, not everybody is into fighting, and is Tekken really that much better than a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat? I'm not that much of a fighting addict, so it cannot be. It cannot be the winner. Hades 2, of course, Hades was fantastic. Korean can tell you all about it. But I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hades is an indie game. Therefore, it has no way, it doesn't have the weight of a Final Fantasy. You can't compare both. It's a great game and it will definitely win its category next year. We can already bet about that. But against the Final Fantasy, you can't. And of course, you had the Star Wars Outlaws, which I believe was the most, the most serious competitors to Final Fantasy. But it didn't win, and I'm not surprised really about this for a couple of things. First of all, we have enough of Star Wars. You have a Star Wars movie or series every year, maybe twice a year. You had every year a game. You had the Battlefront 1, 2, you have a Jedi Survivors, the one before that. You have Jedi, Star Wars, we have it over here. So Star Wars Outlaws, it's a new take on the Star Wars franchise, but it's still a Star Wars. So even if the franchise is well loved, it's a bit like the Marvel superhero movies. Enough. Leave it some time before you release a new one. And we also the gameplay. It's a gameplay which is very much like Horizon. It's kind of wide open world. Yes, it's fun because you can take off. Hi, Starfield. You can take off from the planet straight into space, and you can fight straight away, which is a good point, especially after Starfield. But not enough. It's not enough, and of course, Final Fantasy is winning this award, and it's overall not a surprise. But I was very happy with the nominees because it's a very strong competition. What do you guys think? Adam first.
Okay.
Conan went
No,
first. Adam first.
of all these, there's always going to be a recency bias for a lot of the categories. It's one of the hardest things to get around. But I think this one, in a way, the category really is as much most anticipated as it is best marketing. And I feel like of all these, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has done the best marketing, because if we got the first trailer and then Antoine and I we did the
review.
breakdown, and then we got a second one. At the Game Awards. They dropped a third trailer, and I think, like, how many trailers have I seen for Dragon Infinite Wealth? Maybe one. How many I've seen for
None.
Star Wars Outlaw? They did the one, and then they didn't bring it back anymore. I haven't seen anything, and I've seen maybe one on Hades too. But Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that they've been doing the trailers, they've been doing it fairly regularly. Their Twitter is really active with the marketing, where they came out with between the trailers, they came out with the Kate Sith versus Ket Shi naming thing, and of course that blew up. So I think in terms of anticipation, it makes sense that this one got the winning award, because Korean's confused because my neighbors are doing reconstruction over there, so there's drilling going on in the wall. I'm sorry, there's no way around it, unfortunately. Yeah, but I think their marketing has just really been on point, where they can get around all these, where they can just keep it constantly in people's periphery. And I think, that's probably part of the reason why it won, because it is exclusive. It is only on PlayStation for a long time, and then it will go to PC, and then we don't know if it's going to go anywhere else.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Do you have any opinions on these anticipated games? Of course, I imagine that Hades 2 would take your fancy, since you really like the first one.
Not at all. I actually
Okay,
chose the
enough.
trailer. Usually, you guys, we prepare 9 trailers usually before the podcast, or 9 pieces of video or images or something like that. Adam usually does some awesome Photoshop. Check our Instagram for stuff like that. But I chose Final Fantasy. I'm like, because the rest of these can't even compete. I was like, this is actually was like, whoever chose these games was like a losing competition. Like, in terms of large communities, Hades 2 absolutely niche. Roguelite games are not everyone's fancy. Like, I've only actually played one roguelike that was not a card game and actually enjoyed it. That was Hades 1. But even that, I can see lots of people, especially our demographic, getting very, very easily frustrated and just be like, no, I'm not going to play this anymore. Like a Dragon, again, you said it, Antoine. Too niche, too small, loved by a small number of people. And Star Wars Outlaws, again, Star Wars is a niche franchise. It's not like an EA, Madden, or like a NFL or a 2K stuff, which is where a lot of guy gamers play, or like a extroverted guy gamers play, right? Tekken 8, again, fighting games, right? Fighting games are cool, but fighting games, you need someone else to play with, or you need to enjoy playing online. This was just like, why have one game? Put Final Fantasy 7 in there. You don't need other choices, because it would have won automatically, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I feel like.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, I feel like Dragon's Dogma might have had a bit of a chance, but of these, I think the Star Wars one, I think if there had been more marketing around it, because they just dropped like that one trailer and that was it. I think if they had done the same thing as Final Fantasy, where they were doing regular trailers every so often, and they were doing kind of these updates in between those trailers, I think Star Wars is a big enough franchise that they could have had a chance. But I think because they just did it and then dropped it, and they're just like riding that one wave, I think that's what held it back.
Yeah. Thank you, Jens. So let's move to our next category. This category is a bit niche, so stay with us. You will see it's actually quite an interesting one, and it's Korean speak. It's the best art direction, with the nominees being Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Lies of P, Super Mario Wonders, and once again, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, with the winners being, for me, very surprisingly, Alan Wake 2. I'm gonna get my opinion later because I think starting. Screen first. Which one out of these 5? Okay, we know that Alan Wake won, but which one do you think should have won, or in your opinion?
I'm going to continue my theme of accessibility, and again, in my opinion, of accessibility or like appealing to the general populace. And I thought, and no, it's not Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is wonderful and colorful, but I thought Hi-Fi Rush should have won. It is the most uniquely styled game I've seen in a very long time, and again, accessible across multiple platforms, including the Nintendo Switch. And I heard they are developing like a mobile version of this game as well. That's literally every single device. Everyone will be able to play this. Not everyone will be able to play Super Mario Bros. Wonder because Nintendo's given up on that mobile strategy at the moment, at least from what we've heard so far this year. But yeah, no, Hi-Fi Rush is a game I've wanted to play. I'm just waiting for the price to drop down because this is like a music game or like a rhythm game, and I haven't played any of those since like way back in the day, Guitar Hero 1 or 2, or just a very long time ago. Alan Wake 2 again comes down to, again, I think niche horror. I don't watch horror stuff at all. I've been watching Christmas movies so far this year. I mean, in December, because I don't want to see all of that weird psychological not sleeping stuff. My main reason was I thought Hi-Fi Rush should have won. Its art was just honestly amazing, and I haven't seen anything like it for many years. There's definitely stuff that comes very close, but between the in-game cutscenes and the gameplay and how it all blends nicely together in terms of art, I just haven't seen anything like it. But Adam makes a really good point about the art. Before we were talking before the show, Adam had some good points about color and stuff, and so I understand why Alan Wake was chosen.
All right,
Yeah.
Adam, you're up.
Okay. I probably would have gone with Hi-Fi Rush too, but that's just because I've seen some of the videos of what people have, or some of the stuff that people have posted with Alan Wake, and because he is in this dream world metaverse kind of thing, there's this surrealism where you'll be in this dark forest and there will be this one, like a cafe or something, and it's got this big neon light and it just bathes the area in this otherworldly pink neon light or whatever. So I do think that I do think in a way it works really well. I don't know when it comes to art, I don't know if I would include accessibility as part of the curricula for me, especially because they have an accessibility category. But yeah, for me too, I like personally, I would feel if you could innovate in art in a way, like say for example, Tears of the Kingdom. That's basically you're doing the same kind of thing you were doing before. It doesn't look significantly different, so I don't know if I would really have considered that as a something to add, seeing as they basically just took the same engine with the same aesthetic and just did it again. Super Mario Brothers Wonder, I could understand, but again, it's not a super big deviation from what Mario has done in the past. And so for me, it would feel more like if it would be a deviation. Lies of P, obviously, it fits the mood. It's got that kind of really brooding thing. So for me, it would probably be down to Alan's Wake, Lies of P, and Hi-Fi Rush. I'd probably just go with Hi-Fi Rush just because I feel like it's not just about the visuals, but the way they integrate the music with the visuals is technically part of the art direction. That's what makes it art. So I probably would have gone with Hi-Fi Rush just because of kind of that integration of not just visual, but also sound design. So that would have probably been my choice. But yeah, I think again, I haven't played Alan Wake, Hi-Fi Rush, or Lies of P, so I don't have a very strong opinion as to whether Hi-Fi Rush should have beaten Alan Wake 2 or not. But yeah, I wish I had, but unfortunately, just not that much time in the years.
Thanks. I agree with both of you guys in the fact that best art direction should come down to the uniqueness of the art. What do you remember the game for? You remember it for the art, and Hi-Fi Rush really ticks that box. Alan Wake 2. I have seen, you can yell at me in the comments, I don't care, but I have seen I'm watching a streamer that I love, a French YouTuber called Bob Lennon. Fantastic, he's doing the Let's Play. And Alan Wake 2, just as a background, Alan Wake is under a lake, trying to get out of the influence of the dark, writing the story of other people to try to free himself. And he's writing the story of Saga Anderson, an FBI agent who's investigating a series of murders from some kind of satanic cult in Cauldron Lake. And it's the decor, right? It's a forest, it's a lake, you have a bit of the town. It's very alone in the dark, so the enemies are sensitive to light, so it's very black and white, and you hit them with a light. Very hard for me to see why this one should win the art. Very disappointing. Hi-Fi Rush should have won for me, And I'm really interested in the Lies of P because I am a very big fan of the Bioshock franchise. I have not played Lies of P because I don't want to spoil myself, but the trailers I've seen really make it seem a bit of Bioshock, this steampunk atmosphere, and note the fact that I absolutely hate Pinocchio. I really hate it. And despite that, the trailer makes me think I've got to play this game. Just from a trailer, just from the art of the game, it makes me think I need to play this game. For me, Hi-Fi should have won, hands down. But Lies of P should have been the runner-up, and Alan Wake 2, I just can't put my vote behind this one. But it won, fair play. You can't always get your choice. Next category. Which one did I have next? I had. Oh, let's go for this one. So this one is, this time it's Adam's pick, and it's the games for impact. So the games are a lot more obscure and niche, and I don't know myself most of them. But you had, as a nominee, A Space for the Unbound, Chance of Senar, Goodbye Volcano High, Chia, Terranil, a very good game that I recommend, and Vemba. And the winner was Chia. I'm going to quickly talk about the only one I know, which is Terranil. And Terranil is an extremely relaxing game. Fantastically relaxing. It's a short game, 10 hours tops, right? With four different biomes that you can do twice each, if I recall. I played it a few months ago, so it's already far. But each biomes are highly polluted area, and you just have to clean it up using the quite innovative. I really liked it, and it just makes you feel better because you get out of Earth, and what was a highly polluted, completely impossible to live in environment, you live out completely green and full of wildlife, and it's very relaxing, very feel-good game that I recommend. And of course, since it's the only game I played, I would have voted this one. I don't know the other one, so if Chia won against Terranil, you know what? I need to play Chia because Terranil left an impact on me. So I don't know. Adam, you said you played Chia?
No, I didn't play it. And I know I'd
No.
seen some advertising for it because it was coming out on PlayStation, but I didn't play it. In fact, I had never even heard of A Space for the, and I'd only seen art for Chance of Benar and Venba. I saw a trailer for Terranel, and I saw trailers for Goodbye Volcano High and Chia. So I know in Chia it's more an environmental thing, and I know that it got some when it originally came out. I know that it was being advertised as this cute little, not exactly a platformer, but you're going around the island and you're helping people out, and you can like touch or somehow psychically transfer yourself into objects, so you can become a tire and roll around as a tire, or you could become a coconut and do whatever a coconut has to do. But yeah, I know that later on after it came out that it started getting attention for some of its queer themes, so I'm wondering if maybe that was part of the reason why it was added. But yeah, like I said, I don't the reason I chose this was because it says for a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message, and that just to me seemed incredibly vague. So I was curious as to why they picked the nominees that they did, and unfortunately, like I said, I didn't play any of them. I've only seen trailers for 3. I've only seen art for 2, and I've never even heard of the last one. So I didn't really have an opinion on the winner. But yeah, I just thought that the category was an interesting kind of thing. And I'm sure that means different things to different people.
Just talking about Terranil, it left an impact because it's incredibly soul warming. That's all I can say. Just it's cheap. It's an indie game. It's very cheap. Just to buy it at the next sale if you want to have it even cheaper. But seriously, it doesn't last long, and it's just fun.
Yeah, it was Spiritfarer. That
Krian,
was
did you
was it?
about? Sorry.
I was saying Spiritfarer was not this year, right? Spiritfarer
No,
was last year.
otherwise I would have voted. Otherwise, I would have voted 10 times for it because it left me a very big impact. But that's way different than Terran.
Yeah, I'm
I
wondering
wouldn't
if this is a
recommend
new
everyone
category.
to. Spiritfarer, I wouldn't advise everyone to play to play it. That's the difference.
I think this is a good category though, because I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like the idea of games for impact have been like a thing the last 5 years or so. Like people have been releasing games about like mental health and dealing with trauma and that sort of stuff, and things about like opening up or coming out of the closet or talking about sexuality and that sort of stuff. And I think this is good. I think there needs to be more representation. The games to impact Venba, I'm very familiar with. I didn't play it. It's on my fake Nintendo wish list, which I always like to complain about because Nintendo doesn't allow wish listing in the store. But Venba is like the first, like this is not, I guess it's Indian, but it's like, we talked about this, right? There's like different kinds of Indian people, and I'm one kind, which is like a Tamil people. We're like darker skinned and taller, and some people are lighter skinned, which is like all the famous Indian actors. But like in Venba, you're cooking food, and it's all the foods are like in very famous Indian names for foods, and like it's got culture and it's got the music and stuff. And I'm not like Indian, I'm South African Indian, so like fake Indian kind of in a sense. But that's cool. I would never imagine a game could have like food that I was growing up. There's that very famous Taiwanese game, Cooking Mama or Cookie Mama or Cooking Mama. Adam would probably remember this, right?
Cooking Mama
Cool.
on
Cooking
Facebook,
Mama,
right?
correct?
Cooking Mama.
There's also Switch games, a series of Switch games, Cooking Mama on the Switch.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that was a Taiwanese game.
It is. It's a Taiwanese game.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, like stuff like that, like promoting culture is, I think it's so interesting because the generation we grew up, right, like was just, apologies for saying it, like white people, white culture games, right? That's what I had to play as a kid, right? That's the TV I had to watch. Was like there was nobody of color on TV when I was a kid.
Yeah, it was always American or Japanese. That was it. Those were your two options.
So you see, you had two options. I just had one option. It was always white or Dutch white, right? Those are the only kind of kids TV we'd watch in South Africa in the 80s, right? There was no black, there was no Indian, there was no French, no Italian, no nothing. It was just this. So I think it's a great category. I'm looking forward to hopefully them expanding it and maybe having different sort of impactful categories. That would be cool, but we'll see.
How would you break them down?
All right.
I think
Like
I'd
family
like
or-
to have, yeah, like maybe
gender issues?
culture, racial issues, mental health, sexuality, or because there's so many games on Kickstarter about sexuality and transgender and gay and lesbian stuff. And I think that should be its own category because that really, if you're on Reddit a lot of the time, you know it's quite hard for people to open up to their family. Yes, I'm this. And it's games to help in a sense.
Maybe the next year award will have a LGBTQ plus category,
Maybe.
possibly. If it's, again, as great as the idea is, it has to sell. That's the thing, right? Okay, let's go to the next category, which is mine, and which I really love, of course, Best Independent Games. And there was two categories for it, Best Independent Games and Best Independent Debut Games. So here I'm really talking about the Best Independent Games, with the nominees being Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder. So, of course, that I'm gonna be, yes, Sea of Stars won. I talked about it like maybe 3 or 4 times podcast since I played this game. It's an RPG which is old school and yet very innovative in its way. The story is really gripping. It's a fantastic game. Played, Sabotage Studio did a fantastic job. Really, really good. But there was some other games which are very interesting, like Viewfinder. It's interesting, but it makes you use your brain. That's really hard. It's all a game which works on perspective. Like you have a platform, nothing around, and you have a picture. You put the picture, and it creates a new platform, say. And it's some kind of puzzle game playing on perspective. And it's really cool in itself, but you have to use your brain. That's terrible. Can't do that. But no, it's fun. I heard a lot of good things about Dave the Diver as well. Undersea puzzle game, I believe. I don't know about Cocoon or Dredge, unfortunately. But yeah, good selection. Did you guys played any of this game or no? Unfortunately not. No, Adam.
No, I've heard of all of them except for Cocoon. I didn't know anything about Cocoon, but I've heard good things about all the other ones.
That's gonna be a short answer.
I
Sorry, we got the drill.
I think I agree with the rumors that Dave the Diver shouldn't have been included given the funding and stuff. It is indie games are supposed to be made by small studios, and we can. I won't die on a hill for that, but that's my thinking. Dave the Diver is something I want to buy at some point on the Switch. Although I have made the decision to probably 99% stop transition away from a Switch and get a ROG Ally or something next year, but we'll talk about that on another podcast. As for these, I've heard of all of them. I apologize, Antoine. I don't think Sea of Stars should have won. And again, I think it's. I know some of you who are listening, who are watching or listening to this on YouTube, would probably understand, tired of hearing me saying the theme of, I think this is too niche. Sea of Stars is not for everyone. I watched the gameplay of this. I've seen videos, I've seen the reviews, and I think this is too much of a. It's like an Oppenheimer in movies, right? Regular people don't like Oppenheimer. It's 3 hours. It's way too complicated. It's convoluted. It's like a big brain game, and I think Sea of Stars is just like that. I don't think this is a regular person's game, and so I think Dredge would have been my choice to win, just because it's again accessible gameplay, easy. Play it for 5 minutes, play it for an hour, play it for 2 hours, right? It's not complicated, and I think that's why Dredge was also, it did really well. Lots of people liked it, but I think it's the most, again, sorry to beat the accessibility drum, accessible in terms of anyone can play it.
Entitled to your opinions, even if they are wrong, it's fine. No,
I
I'm
appreciate
kidding, of
that.
course.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to play Sea of Stars, but I don't know. I might have gone with Viewfinder just because of all the other ones. The other ones are pretty straightforward games, but Viewfinder seemed like the one that was the most unique in its gameplay.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
It is,
exactly.
yeah.
So if I were voting, I probably would have gone with Viewfinder simply because it's just something completely different from everything else that's out there.
Viewfinder, which would have been absolutely great in the art section.
Viewfinder was also one of the very few games that makes it onto Instagram. If you're on Instagram all the time, and I'm on multiple times a day because I'm like one of those crazy phone people. But yeah, I remember seeing Viewfinder on Instagram Reels, and it was absolutely amazing.
Next category, which is it my last already? Yeah, it is. We are going actually quite fast. I picked this category because I think it's an interesting debate about it. It's the best sim and strategy game. I really like sim and strategy, so that's also why I picked this one. But we had as a nominees Advance Wars 1 plus 2, Reboot Camp, Cities Skyline 2, Companies of Heroes 3, sorry, I couldn't see the numbers, Fire Emblem Engage, and Pikmin 4. The winner being Pikmin 4. So I'm a bit surprised because I played Pikmin 1 on GameCube way back in time. And yes, it's a very cute puzzle game which is exclusive to Nintendo. And yes, I understand that strategy yeah, I would have classified it more as a puzzle, but yes, you can say it's strategy. I'm just a bit surprised because there was some strong competition. I'm not putting Advance Wars 1 and Plus 2 in the competition because it's just, although it's a great remake, it's a remake. Therefore, out. But City Skyline 2 is a big contender, right? And as Adam was saying before the show, so you didn't hear him, but was saying that maybe this is part of the categories of game which came out too close to the voting, like the fall game. Skyline 2, what is what? 1 month old? Barely. So maybe the journalists who voted didn't have time to play this one enough, but I believe Skyline 1 was either one of the game of the year or winner of its category or something. Anyway, I'm very surprised he didn't win. Companies of Hero, it's a very good strategy game, but there's a lot of this kind of game. Like right now, there's a Last Train or Home in the same kind, which is a very good game as well, but there's nothing, sorry, don't kill me, but there's nothing special to me about this game. And the Fire Emblem Engage, Fire Emblem is always very fun, although I didn't even hear about Engage. I stayed with the Three Houses and the one after that, which I can't even remember the name, which were very good already. Fire Emblem is always, like a very good strategy game. So was it this year there was Tactics Ogre remake, or was it last year?
Tactics Ogre remake of it. a remake of the remake.
Yeah, which was very good, and that's why I was surprised. I was like, was it 2023 or 2022? Because I was pretty sure it was early this year, and since I don't sit in the nominees, I was like, okay, maybe it's just my old age and my memory is foggy. But yeah, so a bit surprised that Pikmin 4 won because it's an exclusive and it's a very child-oriented game. Even if you have a Switch, I don't think many middle-aged players won, so it's a very niche game. So what do you guys think about this selection and this winner?
Okay, I guess I can go. Yeah, no, I think it's. I feel like it's a really broad category, because looking at Advanced Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, and I'm guessing Companies of Heroes and Fire Emblem Engage, those are in the same category as Final Fantasy Tactics Ogre, Persona 5 Tactica, that sort of thing. City Skylines, though, just feels so different with the city builder. And then I don't know, I'm not quite sure where Pikmin goes into that. But yeah, I feel like you could have broken this down into two different categories: best sim and best like strategy or tactical game. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't played Pikmin 4. I didn't even see that much advertising of Pikmin 4. So I'm not quite sure how the gameplay goes and that sort of things. The very little I've seen has been very good though. But again, of everything else, the only other I hadn't really heard of Companies of Hero 3. I think Korean mentioned it once. I think he mentioned it one time. And then Antoine obviously talked about Advance Wars. And yeah, like Antoine, I had never heard of Fire Emblem Engage. So pretty much the only ones I'd really heard of were City Skylines 2 and Pikmin 4. And I didn't even realize Pikmin 4 was out yet. I thought it was still in development or something. Yeah, I don't know. It's good for them.
Strange category.
Yeah, it's a strange category. Yeah.
Yeah, no, to me, City Skylines 2 shouldn't have been there just because it was so badly received on Steam. There were huge issues in terms of performance. It was not like the first one. I played the first one. I think I pre-ordered the first one and I loved it. And it ran on, I think that time would have had a 1080 GTX, which was still a decent high-end graphics card. And it ran fantastically. Like compared to SimCity 4 when EA released it, and that thing was horrible in terms of performance and bugs and issues and that sort of stuff. But City Skylines is just honestly impressive. But I know there's like issues when this came out with, there was performance issues, there were bugs, there was typical traffic management issues with cars and stuff, and people like, this is not the way traffic works. This is why it doesn't work. There was a bunch of videos online. It was just really, City Skylines 2 was set at such a high bar and they couldn't deliver on it. And to me, it made me think there must have been some crunch involved. And Paradox was like, look, we just don't have any more time. And they just released it, which is unfortunate. So I understand why it didn't win. And the rest of these Company of Heroes 3, very niche. A former student of Adams and Mines is a big Company of Heroes fan. So he is a big fan. My older brother is a big fan. But again, I hate World War II, World War I stuff. It's just so goddamn boring. Why? Advance Wars also on my list of things to buy. But again, Advance Wars is turn-based, if I'm not mistaken, gents.
It is, yes.
Yeah. To me, Pikmin makes sense. Adam, I can't believe you've never seen Pikmin adverts. They're freaking all over the place in Taiwan.
I've seen posters. Okay, like I've seen posters, and I've seen maybe 2 trailers, but I haven't seen I haven't seen it in the same sense that I've seen, say, Cyberpunk or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Starfield. Yeah, I haven't seen like that level. I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even realize it was already out yet. I thought it was still like in the advertising phase.
I mean, to me, it is one of the very few games like out here in Taiwan that makes it. Like usually you'll see adverts for online multiplayer games here in Taiwan on buses, on billboards and places. But Pikmin was one of the very few games I saw this year with big adverts on a bus, a big covering around the bus of Pikmin. And I'm like, that's when you know Nintendo's put money into advertising when they do these things and try to compete with the famous online games. But yeah, to me, it makes sense Pikmin wins because it is fun, it is colorful, it is easygoing. And again, like Antoine, you mentioned you played the first one, right? So it is our generation that want to play this, or people like me who unfortunately became from a crazy gamer to a casual gamer wants to play it. And I want to go to the store and buy it at retail price at some point when I have time. After I go to the store that Adam is going to buy a new GPU at some point.
Since we still have some time, I want to go through another categories. But first of all, thanks to you making think of Starfield, I just want to say thanks a lot for all of you creative people who make all this meme about Starfield trying to get inside the nominee circle for game of the year. I have seen 2 or 3 and they are hilarious. Very sorry for Starfield, but this was great. Last category that I want to go through because we do like to watch some TV, all of us sometime, and there is an adaptation, of a game onto the screen, either big or small screen. There was Castlevania Nocturne, which I didn't see actually, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, of course, and Twisted Metal. So I'm not going to comment on Castlevania and Twisted Metal because I haven't seen them. I have no clue. I've seen the Gran Turismo movie, and you know what? I wasn't expecting anything. And then I saw director Neil Blomkamp, and I was like, oh. And I watched the movie, and I'm like, yeah, it's actually a very good movie based on a racing game, which you would think, well, yes, not much to say on a racing game. And there has been like the Le Mans Ferrari versus Ford not too long ago. And okay, let's see. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic. Let's not blow it out of proportion. It was still a racing game, but it's a very good movie, a very good director. Neil Blomkamp, it was very weird for him to do that, right? Because he's the one who's done District 9, Chappie, very documentary-like. He always said that he loved to make movies about video games. I believe his project was to do Halo, which got transformed into District 9 at some point. So that's why maybe that's a link for his cinematography that he did Gran Turismo. It was very well done. Honestly, very good. The Last of Us, I heard a lot about it. Not always in good. For instance, one of the main critiques was, is there any zombies on your story about zombies? Which was like, what? What do you mean there's no zombies? Say, yes, there's a couple of zombies in 2 episodes in the whole show. Okay. Of course, Last of Us is not really so much about zombies as it's a relationship between Ellie and Joel. But still, it's still the end of the world with full of zombies, and you have to feel the anxiety all around you. Okay, I will watch it at some point, but the fact that it won against Super Mario was surprising to me because the Super Mario Bros. Movie was a big success, a very big success, so much that it prompted, we talked about it a couple podcasts back, but it prompted a live action on Zelda, right? So again, Super Mario Bros. Movie for me was more like a big advertisement for Nintendo and the Mario franchise, and not that much fun in the end. It was like, when I get out in cinema, I was like, yeah, it was a fun movie. But the day after, I wouldn't remember it. Movie-wise, Gran Turismo is better. I'm not kidding. Gran Turismo is better than the Mario movie. It's different, of course, because Mario is an animated movie and the other one is live with real actor. But overall, if I have to pay my cinema ticket, I would go to see Gran Turismo rather than Mario. Therefore, I'm not really surprised, but the fact that it's an actual series, The Last of Us, which won, I feel it a bit unfair. You will tell me why, but let me explain. Gran Turismo, Mario, we're talking about a 2 hours movie. Castlevania's Netflix. I know there was a couple of seasons already, but same, Last of Us is on Netflix as well. And we're talking about a season of at least 8 or 10 episodes. How can you compete when you can put so much more story on like 1 hour per episode, 10-hour show against a 2 hours movie? I don't feel they should compete in the same category. That's just my view. Of course, you have terrible adaptation. Everybody spit on the latest Resident Evil Netflix show. Although it's my guilty pleasure, but I actually found it cool. Much better than the latest movie with Leon, which was terrible. Anyway, and Twisted Metal, I see the actor. I recognize this guy. I just don't remember his name, but I'm not sure what game it's supposed to be.
Anthony Mackie. You don't know Twisted Metal? The cars fighting game?
Like Death Race, you mean?
Not
I know Death
exactly.
Race.
It's like an old PlayStation game, and then I think the later ones were on Xbox as well. I'm surprised you don't know
I'm
Twisted
not
Metal.
really. No, sorry, I'm not an Xbox player as well. No, I really don't know that one. And Castlevania, I've never been a big fan of platformers when I was a kid, which is why I never played Club. I have no clue about the Belmont family and Dracula and things like this. That was not really my stuff. So there's an adaptation, fantastic, but I wouldn't know the lore, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if it's good or not. So no comment on that one. What about you guys? What do you think about the adaptation?
First,
Okay. Yeah, no, I heard that Gran Turismo was making a movie. I don't know anything about it. Castlevania Nocturne, I'm gonna go with Korean here and say that one's probably a bit niche. That one would be tough. And Twisted Metal, yeah, it didn't have the best hype going into it. I've heard a lot of people say it's a lot better than what they were expecting, but it's still not capturing the original kind of Twisted Metal feel. The original Twisted Metal was very dark, and it was a very dark form of humor. It was a monkey's paw kind of thing where it looks like you can get your wish granted, but it typically backfires against you. And this one's a little more jovial in a way. But Last of Us was huge when it was coming out. It was pulling some of those kind of Game of Thrones things where everyone's talking about like the latest episode and they're like, oh, like this and that and the other thing. So it was a big cultural thing. So I think it really probably came down to that and the Super Mario Brothers movie. But I don't know. You're saying Gran Turismo was so good. I didn't know anything about it. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Last of Us won because again, like Antoine said, it does have the advantage of being a series rather than just a standalone movie.
Yeah, but that's the fun part about The Last of Us is that when you talk to anyone who saw the series, the episode they're gonna mention is the one which is not in the game. In the game, you end up in the city with a guy who's completely lonely. He's alone in the city, half mad, booby trapped everything, and you need him to lead you to the city, to the school, to the local school, to steal a bus battery and stuff like this, to jump a car, In the series, he's not alone. He's actually with a guy and he's gay. And apparently, it's the best episode of the series. So the best episode of the series it's an adaptation, so they do whatever they want, but it's not actually like from the game.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
alternate
why
reality
not?
of the game because in the game the whole thing is that him and
Yeah.
this other guy were together, but he was really set in his ways and he was a bit extreme about the whole survivalist thing. And the other guy just couldn't take it anymore and just left and ended up dying as he left. But then this guy thought the dude ran off, uh, but he didn't realize that he ran off because of him. So it's this whole thing where this guy secretly hated him and he thought that they were lovers. And this guy was like to the point where he ran off and got himself killed because that was a better alternative than living with this dude. But then the show completely flipped that on its head and said, what would have happened if that guy had actually changed and said, you know what, I have been a bit extreme. I want to change for you. And if he had turned it around, what could have been? And so the show went in that direction. Yeah, it's interesting that they went there and didn't stick with the script and instead just completely did a what if scenario and just said, okay, let's run with that instead. Yeah, it is interesting.
Priyan, did you play or watch any of these?
I did not watch any of these. I don't watch movies. I haven't watched a movie in like almost 5 years or 6 years. I tend to watch TV shows, and I tend to watch. My habit is I binge watch TV shows. So in the sense of I'll watch 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, one episode done, but I'll watch the same thing until I'm done with that show. And I like that seems counterintuitive because I hate story, but I like it in TV shows. I guess I just don't like it in games. That's weird. But no, to me, like I heard about Gran Turismo. I saw the trailer. That looked exciting. It looked fun. Castlevania. My younger brother watched it and he was like, nope, too much blood for you. Don't watch it. I'm like, okay, thank you for letting me know. I don't have to waste my time. So Mario Bros. Movie, that's when it comes to Netflix or whatever streaming service I'm paying for at the time, I'll watch that. Just to metal, my younger brother watched it as well. He liked it. He said it was good, but it was just like what Antoine described as like a 6, 7 out of 10 good, not like a, oh my God, you have to watch it 9 out of 10 good. And Last of Us, I saw all the reviews. I read about it. Looks really interesting, but and to me it made sense that it won because it has Pedro Pascal. It has that girl's name, Bella something or the other. I forgot who it is, but Pedro Pascal
Ramsey.
after the Mandalorian. Bella Ramsey, yes. After he was the Mandalorian, like anything he touches now is just gold, and people love him so much. So it makes sense that it won because this is building off The Walking Dead and all the spin-off Walking Dead series. You combine that love of this genre plus good actors or actresses, and you can't Gran Turismo, any of these things couldn't compete.
Just to complete what I was saying about the Super Mario movie, it was a good movie, just far for me too clinical, too clean. You really feel that the studio Illumination, they are the guy who made the Minions, right? Are usually making crazy fun movie. Here you can feel that Nintendo breathing on their neck saying, it's our IP. It's gonna go like this and not like this. It's fun. Remove it. That's not how we want it to go. Really, you had this feeling like Nintendo was behind, breathing down their neck, and they couldn't just release horses like they could have done on the Minions or something like this. It just like this little spark, which would have made it a really good banger. So that's all for me, unless you guys have something to add. But in terms of categories, there was 39 categories or something. Lots of them were esports. We don't play esports, so not really something we would look at. There was some good things we didn't touch, like innovation in accessibility. We talked about it a little bit in previous podcasts. There was VR games, but we don't really do VR. There was mobile game, but Phil is not doing podcasts with us anymore. He would have been able to tell you anything about it. There was some, of course, main road like best action or best action adventure, best RPG. I'm sure you already watch all of these. That's why I wanted to go to something more specific like indie and art and things like this. So I hope that you like this format. Please tell us, because I really, if you liked it, we would go and do the same for next year. We could do a special before and after, like the Oscar ceremony, go through the main categories and say, we believe that this will win and this will be runner up, and do an after, like we were right or we completely screwed up, and see if we can get a lot of points.
Sounds good. This was exciting. And apparently, like, hardware is the big thing these days. Like, Antoine's hardware video is still, oh my God, it's the most viewed video we've done in a while in terms of long form views. Antoine, I don't know if you saw that or not. Yeah,
the NVIDIA lineup.
The super video.
You just have to fuel the war. There's AMD fanboys, NVIDIA fanboys, pit them against each other, and you get.
That's literally what happened. There's 31 comments so far on that video. But yeah, before we end up today's show, just to remind you guys, next week is the final episode of the year. We will be releasing unreleased content for the last week of the year. Usually we get like 9 videos. So there's a bunch of videos because I think we only get to do 5 longs plus 2 shorts. The last week of the year will be unreleased segments from these December videos. So please keep an eye out for that. And next week is Adam's special category, which is accessibility features we would like to see in 2024. If I'm phrasing that correctly, Adam.
Yeah, just not necessarily accessibility for sure, but also just like any kind of features that we have seen in games that we think like more games should include this, or this should be something that I would like to see more games doing. But yeah, accessibility.
So we can definitely review this category of accessibility and see what they have done this year and what we can expect for next year.
I'm excited about this because there's loads of things I've heard about and seen. So keep an eye out for that. And just to remind you guys as well, there is no podcast this week. The podcast was sunset last week. Sad here because it was 100. Oh God, a lot of episodes. I don't know how many to count. But what that does mean is I'm going to make every effort to make sure the edited version of the video is out on YouTube. So if you are like Adam and I, Antoine is the only one who's not on it, YouTube Premium, right? It's just like listening to a podcast. You can play the episode on YouTube, close your phone, do your exercise or ride a bike like a crazy person like me for 2 hours and listen to the episode. So still accessible, still cool, and you get the video or the audio aspect. So the podcast is not dead, it's just moved into a different format, and that gives us a little bit more time to work on the videos, work on the thumbnails, work on the titles, spend more time organizing the channel and what we're going to do in the future. So please keep an eye out for that. And we will see you guys same time next week for the last episode of the year, and hope you liked it, and talk to you then.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.